was doing some research on loneliness to say that um, loneliness itself isn't and after this I'd love to hear how you agree or not, but that loneliness in itself isn't a bad thing. It's essentially a signal, right? Because it tells some
Absolutely.
people that they want more connection than they currently have, right? Some people might be better with being alone. Some people might not be able to tolerate it at all. But the loneliness feeling is just a signal to whatever your set point is. You want more connection, and if you go a longer period of time without these levels of connection, that whatever your set point is that you desire, then you also start experiencing connection in person with people less than other people, and you become more paranoid about other people. Like all of these things start to, for some reason, cascade when you're not around people long enough, and chronic loneliness becomes just part of your cycle. It makes it more difficult to connect with people afterwards. So it seems like it speaks a little bit to that for what might be happening to a lot of people that maybe start out not connecting and then continue on like that. Does that match with anything that you're seeing as well?
I actually use the same kind of words that you say.
Okay.
As I talked about loneliness, and when it comes up in therapy, as it inevitably does, I say it's a signal. And I use the parallel of hunger or thirst. Those are signals
Right.
that we're missing something that we need. Loneliness is that signal that we need connection. We need that sense of belonging. We need to have that sense that we matter to others. And those things can be rectified, but
Mm.
it takes agency on our part to do something about it. If we just sit and wait for people to recognize that we're missing it, it's not going to happen.
That's interesting because I have a little bit of theory on it, and I'd love to hear your take. So, I think a lot of men still have agency. I think that signal. I think we become desensitized to it and disincentivized to recognize it, because from an early age, we're there's that study where there's an how do you say it? An agendered baby, or that you don't know if it's male or female. And if it's female, people will look at the baby and be like, oh, it's sad, it needs help, it needs care. But if you tell people that it's a boy, they're like, it's angry, it's frustrated, and then so boys from very, very early ages start being treated with more automatic contempt or fear than girls would be treated. And over time, it seems if men present, or little boys present, as if they're too caring, too sensitive, too loving, then even well-intentioned, open-minded parents end up, they want to I think they become scared. There's the fear of their kid being gay, because they don't know what that means for them in the world. They don't want them to be vulnerable. They don't want them to be in a world that maybe doesn't accept them. So they try, well-intentioned, try to see like, oh no, you should play with trucks. How about you play some football, or all these things? And so anytime a lot of young boys, even if they want to do something like dance or sing or whatever, they're kind of shuffled away from that. So they're constantly told that what they believe, what they think, what they feel from their heart is not real. And over
Yeah.
time, if you're kind of gaslit away from all the stuff that does come from the heart, which is showing love, receiving love, crying if you're sad, accepting vulnerability, all of these things, and you're disincentivized, said that men don't do this, big boys don't do this. If you want to be a man, this isn't how men act. Well, then if you're forever told that what you feel isn't legitimate, by the time you're older and you're around less and less people, normally when you exit adolescent and you're in your 20s and 30s, you have no idea what that signal even feels like anymore, because you're so disconnected from how your heart feels, because you were told never to feel it. That's kind of how I think we end up with this epidemic of loneliness.
Absolutely, because essentially what you're talking about, there's so many aspects or elements of the human experience that we're taught in one way or another are incompatible with masculinity.
Hmm.
We can't express love, fear, sadness, loss, grief, being vulnerable, or what I like to say, just being authentic. because those are part of our experience as a
Sure.
human being.
Just being a human.
Every
Yeah.
single every single one of us are going to feel all of those emotions that I just described. But for many men, they're taught explicitly and implicitly throughout our life that those don't fit with being a good strong man. And so we
Right.
learn to distance ourselves from that, and we actually lose attunement with those feelings, to the point where when we're older, so much separation has occurred from between what we're willing to acknowledge within ourselves and our sort of behavior to live up to sort of the social norms of masculinity and manhood. We don't even recognize those feelings anymore. We don't know what they
Right.
are. And I tell guys is like, emotions are data. They tell you something about yourself. So if you lose touch with your emotions, you're actually losing data on yourself. You just don't understand yourself as well as you could or should. And then it's
Right.
like, oh, well, I like data. So tell me more about that.